Did man truly land on the moon in 1969? Or was it the biggest hoax of the century? This question has sparked debate and controversy for decades. It's a question that, despite compelling evidence to the contrary, still has some people scratching their heads and scouring the internet for answers. The moon landing in 1969 was a monumental achievement, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. But for some, the event was too extraordinary, too perfect, too monumental to be real. They argue that it was all an elaborate hoax, a spectacle staged by the United States government to claim victory in the space race against their Cold War rival, the Soviet Union. Surely the idea of faking a moon landing sounds like something out of a science fiction novel. But let's put ourselves in the shoes of those who question the authenticity of the event. Could this have been a well-crafted piece of propaganda, a grand illusion designed to instill national pride and showcase American superiority in the face of an intense geopolitical rivalry? These individuals point to a variety of perceived inconsistencies and anomalies in the moon landing footage and photographs. They question the technological capabilities of the time and argue that the United States, desperate to assert dominance in the space race, may have resorted to creating a grandiose tale of lunar exploration. But why would the United States go to such lengths to fake a moon landing? The answer they propose lies in the socio-political climate of the time. The Cold War was at its peak, and the space race was a critical aspect of this ideological and technological battle. The moon landing would have been the ultimate display of technological prowess, a clear declaration of victory against the Soviets. Of course, these theories are not without their critics. Many argue that the evidence overwhelmingly supports the reality of the moon landing. Yet the doubters persist, fueled by a sense of skepticism and a desire for truth. Let's dive into the theories that make people question the authenticity of the moon landing. Have you ever wondered why the flag placed on the moon by Neil Armstrong fluttered as if there was wind? In the footage of the Apollo moon landing, we see the American flag standing proudly on the lunar surface, appearing to wave as if caught in a breeze. But wait a minute, there's no wind on the moon, right? So how could the flag possibly flutter? This conundrum has sparked a theory that suggests the moon landing might have been filmed right here on Earth. Now let's delve a little deeper. The moon, unlike Earth, doesn't have an atmosphere. This means there's no air and consequently no wind. So, logically speaking, a flag planted on the moon would stand still, right? It wouldn't wave or flutter. But in the footage, we clearly see the flag moving. This discrepancy has led some to question the authenticity of the moon landing. But before we jump to conclusions, let's consider some counter-arguments. Some experts argue that the flag's apparent movement could be due to the momentum created when the astronauts were setting it up. Remember, the moon's gravity is only 1/6 that of Earth's. This means that movements, even small ones, would have more pronounced effects. A simple action like twisting the flagpole into the ground could cause the flag to move significantly. Another explanation could be the properties of the flag itself. The flag used in the Apollo mission wasn't your typical cloth flag. It was made of a stiffer, more rigid material designed to hold its shape in the vacuum of space. Despite these arguments, the flag conundrum remains a point of contention. It's one of those things that makes you go, It adds a layer of mystery to an already intriguing topic. So we are left with a question that's as old as the moon landing itself. If there's no wind on the moon, why did the flag appear to flutter? Was it momentum, the material of the flag, or perhaps something more earthly? The flag flutters, yet there's no wind on the moon. A curious case indeed. Wouldn't a journey through the Van Allen radiation belt be deadly for astronauts? Now there's a question that has had conspiracy theorists scratching their heads for decades. Let's dive in and tackle this mystery head-on. So what is the Van Allen radiation belt? Picture two donuts of seething radiation encircling our planet. These donuts, or belts, if you will, are regions within the Earth's magnetosphere where high-energy protons and electrons are trapped by Earth's magnetic field. Named after the scientist who discovered them, James Van Allen, these belts pose significant challenges to space travel. Now let's get to the crux of the matter. The radiation within these belts is indeed dangerous. Anyone or anything that spends a significant amount of time within these belts would be exposed to high levels of radiation, which could cause a whole host of problems, from damaging electronic equipment to causing serious harm to the human body. But here's where things get interesting. The Apollo missions, including the famous Apollo 11 that carried Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to the moon, had to pass through these belts. And here's the kicker, the astronauts were not in these belts long enough to receive a fatal or even harmful dose of radiation. The spacecraft moved quickly, spending only about 4 hours in the belts, 2 hours out and 2 hours back. That's less time than it takes to watch the director's cut of The Lord of the Rings. Furthermore, the spacecraft's construction provided some protection. The metal hull of the spacecraft helped shield the astronauts from the radiation. Plus, the most dangerous parts of the belts were avoided by adjusting the flight path of the spacecraft. So yes, the Van Allen radiation belts are a force to be reckoned with, a hurdle in the path of space travel. But with the right precautions and planning, they can be navigated safely. If the radiation belt is so lethal, how did the astronauts make it through unscathed? Well, now you know, it wasn't a walk in the park, but it wasn't an insurmountable obstacle either. One might expect a stellar view when looking at the sky from the moon, but where were the stars in the moon landing footage? Now, let's shift our focus upwards, beyond the moon's desolate terrain to the dark void above. If you've ever had the chance to peer at the footage from the Apollo moon missions, you might have noticed something peculiar: the absence of stars. The images and videos presented to us by NASA showcase a pitch-black sky, devoid of any celestial bodies. No twinkling stars, no distant galaxies, just a haunting emptiness. Isn't that a bit odd? After all, with no atmosphere to scatter light and block our view, shouldn't the moon offer us an unparalleled view of the cosmos? This inconsistency has served as a cornerstone for those who believe the moon landing was a grand hoax. They argue that this lack of stars is a clear sign of a stage set, a controlled environment fabricated here on Earth. They suggest that the creators of this elaborate ruse simply overlooked this detail, or perhaps found it too challenging to accurately replicate a star-studded sky. The counter-argument put forth by experts is steeped in the science of photography. They explain that the absence of stars is a result of the camera settings used to capture the lunar landscape. The astronauts' primary focus was on the moon's surface, which is incredibly bright due to the direct sunlight it receives. To prevent overexposure, they had to adjust their camera settings, which inadvertently made the faint stars invisible in the photos. But then, wouldn't it have been possible to adjust the settings for at least one shot? To capture the beauty of the cosmos from a vantage point never before reached by man? These questions keep the debate alive, casting a shadow of doubt over the authenticity of the moon landing. So we are left with a sky without stars, a dark canvas that, instead of inspiring awe at the vastness of the universe, raises questions about the truth of our ventures into space. A sky without stars, another oddity in the moon landing narrative. We've discussed several theories that raise doubts about the authenticity of the moon landing. As we journey back through this cosmic conundrum, let's revisit the key points that have fueled this debate for over half a century. Firstly, we examined the flag conundrum. The American flag, proudly planted by Neil Armstrong, appeared to ripple in the vacuum of space, where there's no wind. Some suggest this could be a result of studio effects, while others argue it's due to the flag's construction and the momentum caused by the astronauts. Next, we delved into the intimidating Van Allen radiation belt. This belt of high-energy particles held in place by Earth's magnetic field poses a significant threat to human health. Skeptics question how the Apollo astronauts could safely traverse this lethal barrier, not just once, but twice. Some argue that the technology of the late 60s simply wasn't advanced enough to protect the astronauts. Yet others maintain that a fast, well-planned trajectory could minimize exposure. Then we explored the puzzling absence of stars in the photographs taken on the moon. The starless lunar sky has been a sticking point for many skeptics. They argue that this absence suggests the photographs were taken in a studio. However, defenders of the moon landing point to the high reflective surface of the moon and the camera's exposure settings as plausible explanations. In the end, the moon landing controversy is a tapestry of mystery, science, and speculation. It's a testament to our human instinct to question, to probe, and to seek the truth. And while we may never have a definitive answer, the debate itself is a reflection of our insatiable curiosity. Whether a giant leap for mankind or a meticulously planned hoax, the moon landing continues to intrigue us all. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the truth is often stranger than fiction.